Susie, we're in trouble. I've seen the future. Well, I watched Tomorrow's World when I was younger, and it said that if we hadn't invented hoverboards and flying electric motorcycles by the year of 2015, we're all going to die because the fossil fuels are going to come back and get us and stuff.
So over the top.
Something like that.
Always just exaggerate and just go a little bit crazy with things. But seriously, something has got to change. What with the ever depletion of fossil fuels, increasing fuel costs, congestion prices, and not to mention pollution. I mean, these things are only going to get worse, so something has got to give.
Yeah, and I don't see me riding no flying hoverboard. So, what are we going to do about it? Well, electric vehicles and electric cars have been something that have been kind of touted around for the last 20 or 30 years, but they really have been the domain of eccentric billionaires like Sir Clive Sinclair. Remember the C5? Enough said on that.
Well, Luke, that leads me nicely to why we're here at Battersea Power Station today. We've come to check out the prototype of the C-Evolution. It's by BMW, and we're one of the first to get to film these.
Now, on paper, BMW are making some pretty impressive claims. They say it'll do 14 brake horsepower from 0 RPM, being an electric motor, it doesn't need to rev up. They're also saying it has a 60-mile range, and it can charge from 0 to full in 3 hours flat from a plug socket.
Now, as I said, these are actually prototypes, so they're still 2 years off production. Hopefully 2014 they'll be out, but we're lucky enough to try these out today, aren't we?
So let's go and see if they can set a spark off in my soul.
Well, it seemed quite fitting to come back here to Battersea Power Station to do the review on the C-Evolution. You know, because it's all about electricity.
I see what you did
Even
there.
I know that.
This genuinely could be heralding in a new era for us in the future of transport.
It exceeded all your expectations, didn't it?
What, you trying to say I was cynical beforehand? I
Very
didn't like
cynical.
electric bikes. No, I'm well for it. I've got a little flag at home that says I love electric bikes. Do you know what? In the past, whenever I've ridden an electric vehicle, a bike or car, whatever, it's always been compromises. It's been, oh, it's really practical, but it's really slow and boring. This is the first electric vehicle I've ridden where it didn't feel like it was making any compromises. If anything, it's kind of starting to trail its own path. Range, what I quite like about the fact on the dial, not only does it tell you exactly what the engine's doing, how much charge you're using, how much recharge it's putting back in, which is taking friction off the brakes, kind of like a KERS system. I don't think it's actually working on this one, is it? But it's indicating that it will be when it comes to production. But it lets you know, for instance, I've got 83% left of battery, that's 48-mile range.
And that is really accurate as well. You know, I was impressed with the accuracy.
I am so impressed with it, so much so that it has generally changed my focus a little bit. I think the potential of what could be derived from electric engines outweighs the potential of the internal combustion engine for pure riding thrills.
Because it is battery operated though, I mean, how did you find it handled? I mean, I find it a little bit heavy.
It's heavy at low speeds, but with the weight low down, I found it was quite a nice centre of gravity.
Yeah.
One of my coolest things on it is it's got the little kind of green light on the
And
side.
at night, this looks so cool, all lit up, so.
So do you know what? I think, Susie, we genuinely may have stumbled on the future of transport here. It's just a shame it's not going to be out for 2 years.
I was sold on it already. Luke, hang on a second, what is that?
I don't know, is it a bird? Is it a plane? Is it Batman? Oh, I've got to get me a go on one of those. So it turns out it wasn't actually the Batpod, but rather this, the Agility Saetta. Now, Agility are a British-based company that have designed this electric motorcycle from the ground up. And unlike the C-Evolution scooter from BMW, which you're going to have to wait 2 years for it to appear on the streets, this is available to buy right now. How much do you say? Well, £13,750 will buy you this. And let's look at the figures, because that's superbike kind of category money. Let's see if it matches up with superbike performance. It's limited to either 115 miles an hour or 75 mile an hour top speed, depending on which spec you go for. But the really impressive figure, and the thing that will blow you away with electric engines, is the amount of torque they deliver. This at the back wheel produces 409 pound-foot of torque. To give you an indication of what that's like against a road bike, my Victory Hammer S, which is an awesome muscle cruiser, produces 113 pound-foot of torque. This is 4 times more powerful at the back wheel, and it delivers it at 0 RPM, not high up the rev range like we found with the scooters. So pretty impressive claims. Range-wise, they're saying it's got a 100-mile range on it, and at the moment it takes between 4 and 5 hours to do a full charge from scratch. But they're saying in about 2 to 3 years' time, that will be down to 20 minutes because Agility have actually designed the battery technology on this bike themselves. So all of these claims sound brilliant, but the most important thing is, what does it ride like? Okay, so the silent running, like on that scooter, is kind of surreal. But what's cool about it, they're actually going to bring out sound packs to this so that people can hear a noise and yourself when you're riding, including, which I think will be wicked, the Star Wars pod racing sound. So you get that while you're riding along. Immediately, the riding position is awesome. Suspension feels really nice. It's a monocoque chassis, like on a Formula One McLaren. They literally worked with McLaren to develop it. So it does handle really nicely. Low centre of gravity, and this acceleration is just, that's nuts. That is nuts. Wow. I just grabbed a handful. That was quite mental. Wow, you actually really have to feed the throttle on or it's just going to lift up. Obviously this has an anti-wheelie system in place to prevent that happening. When they were testing these originally, it's got so much power at the back wheel. I remember that was the problem. It's surreal having all of that power at 0 RPM. That is one of the weirdest things I've got to get used to. I want to give it some. Should we try? Sideways. Kind of weird. I thought this would feel like riding a bit of a dodgy prototype, but it doesn't. It actually feels really smooth. It's a very pleasurable experience. But what's really shocked me, as I say, I think when I ride the BMW for the first time and everything else, I thought electric bikes were gimmicky. This isn't gimmicky. This is just showing me the potential of performance that is out there for electric engines, and we're only scratching the surface, and already it's incredibly exciting. So if the BMW electric scooter turned me on to the possibilities of electric bikes working, well, the Sayetta, it's just turned me on, to be honest with you. Now, I've been looking forward to riding this bike for so long. I think I was setting myself up for a fall. Not only is it one of the most spectacular looking machines I've ever seen, but the performance figures and everything else, and the fact that it is a British company really doing it on their own, pioneering and developing the technology themselves. I really thought I'd get on it and it wouldn't be that great, but I was wrong. Now, obviously, one of the big things I think that's put people off buying electric vehicles in the past is, well, the inability to just pop into a service station and charge it up, but also because technology moves on so quickly. You know what it's like, you go out and buy a computer, 6 months later, there's already been 3 new models. So why would you want to go out and spend £13,000 on a bike that in 2 years could be obsolete? Well, this is where Sayetta have really set out their stall. They have said every piece of technology they develop, and let's remember, they're developing the battery technology, the charging technology, they've even got a patent for the material the panels are made out of, will be retrofittable to your bike. So if you go and spend £13,750 on this bike tomorrow, all their updates, all their advancements will be able to be applied to this bike, as simply as well, in a lot of the cases, of it dialing up to the internet and downloading an update. Now that's pretty cool. What gets me so excited about this bike is it's the first electric motorcycle I've seen or ridden that has a desirability factor. Look, we're human beings. If it's just down to practicality and what vehicles we rode around, and we'd all be driving smart cars or riding push bikes. They are the most practical form of transport, but we don't, do we? Because we still make V8s and V12s because of one thing. We have passion in our soul and we like to get that tweaked by something. £13,750. Would I go out and spend my hard-earned cash on this tomorrow? The way it's made me feel today, if you were to put that money in my hand, I'd probably hand it over right now. But I don't think a lot of you are going to really be bought into the whole, I suppose, prospect of electric motorcycles until they sort out that recharge factor. But as I've said, within 2 to 3 years, genuinely, you're going to be able to buy a bike like this with 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds, a range of over 100 miles. The fact that it will do that 100 miles for about 40p cost as well, and you'll be able to recharge it in 20 minutes. That is when I think electric bikes will become less of the future and more of the now. But in the meantime, I just want to get back out on this.